All right, well, I imagine there will still be a few people coming on, but it is 6:30. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. My name is Regina Neville, and I'm the chair of the board for Intermediate District 287. It is 6:30 p.m. on August 27th, 2020, for this general meeting of the school board. This meeting is being recorded and is live streamed on the District 287 YouTube channel. The meeting link will be posted on the 287 website in the school board section for viewing after the meeting is completed. A general reminder that the board appreciates input from our community. The public is invited to share their thoughts and comments with the board. If you choose to do so, please complete the virtual meeting request form for written input that is available on the District 287 website in the school board section. Written comments received by 4:30 p.m. on the day of the board meeting will be read at the beginning of the meeting. General reminders that since we are virtual, we ask people to mute their buttons when they are not speaking, and remembering to turn on our mics when we are speaking, and specifically for our roll call votes. Invite people to use the raise hand feature on Board Book Premier, which cues everybody up in the order that they raise their hand. I will also look for a friendly wave, but the raise hand tool is a helpful way to keep track of everyone who wishes to speak. Since this is virtual, all votes will be taken by roll call, led by Crystal Brecky. And at this time, I'd like to invite Crystal to read the mission statement for Intermediate District 287.
The mission of Intermediate District 287 is to be the premier provider of innovative specialized services to ensure that each member district can meet the unique learning needs of its students.
Thank you, Crystal. And if you could now follow by calling on each board member so that we can introduce ourselves and the districts we represent.
Adams.
Steve Adams from Hopkins District 270.
And I am Crystal Brecky from Richfield Public Schools. Casey.
And Casey, representing St. Louis Park.
Keene.
Hi, everyone. Andrea Keene, representing Wayzata Public Schools.
Dallas.
Hello, everyone. Ruthie Dallas from Brooklyn Center Community Schools, number 286.
Douglas.
Heather Douglas, representing Osseo Area Schools, District 279.
Coons, sorry. Michelle, you're on mute.
I'm unmuted. Sorry. Hi, this is Michelle Kuntz. I represent the Orono School District on this board.
Marty.
Hi, I'm Heidi Marty, and I'm representing the West Tonka Public Schools.
Neville.
Hi, I'm Regina Neville, representing Edina Public Schools.
Sand.
Sam Sand, representing Robbinsdale 281 School District.
And Seidel.
Adam Seidel, representing Eden Prairie District 272.
Okay, thank you. And at this point in time, I'll introduce staff who are joining us this evening online. We have Amanda Ochterkirk, Tonya Allen, Michelle Axel, Ann Becker, Wani Namjini, Sean Garvey, Radius Guess, May Hawkins, Kim Helgeson, Rachel Hicks, Superintendent Sandy Lewandowski, Ben McGross, Chad Maxa, Elizabeth Lodge Rogers, and Jonathan Voss. Are there any staff members I have accidentally missed this evening? Okay.
Melissa Broading.
Melissa, hi. Thank you for letting me know. Glad that you are here. And welcome, everyone. I'm going to do a walk through the agenda for this evening. We'll have our regular consent agenda, followed by the superintendent's report with 3 items, a back to school report. We have a keynote speaker this evening, information about our equity cohort, and the superintendent's 2020-2021 Uber goal. I believe that's 4 things, and I think I said 3. We'll do all 4. We will also have a business services and labor relations report with the approval of the June monthly financial report. And we'll conclude the evening with some board chair remarks and once around the table. Are there any additions to the agenda for this evening? Hearing none, I make a motion that we accept the agenda as printed. Is there a second?
Second, Michelle Kuhn.
Seconded. Thank you. Seconded by Michelle Coons. I invite everyone to turn on their mics as Crystal calls the roll for approval of the agenda.
Adams.
Aye.
Brackey is an aye. Casey. Aye. Keen.
Yes.
Dallas.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Coons.
Yes.
Marty.
Yes.
Neville.
Yes.
Sant.
Yes.
Seidel.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, audience opportunity to speak. Juanine, is there anyone who has requested to address the board this evening?
No, Madam Chair, no one has sent anything.
Thank you. We'll follow with approval of the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone would like removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the consent agenda as printed?
This is Andrea Keene.
So moved.
Moved by Andrea, seconded by Sam Sant. I invite all board members to please turn on their mics. And Crystal, could you please call the roll?
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, just a point of information, and this is not about the consent agenda. My camera
Yes.
is showing as off, and I just wanted to confirm if that is the case or not, because I know they're supposed to be on. Can you see me? Can you all see me?
Yeah.
Or do I need to fix that?
I can see you, but your image is still.
Oh, I can't.
Okay, I'll work on that as we continue. I'm sorry.
I don't.
Would you? So it looks like there's some mixed views that some devices are able to see, and on my device, you. Oh, there you
you
fixed it.
Cool. I didn't want to
Fine.
vote. I didn't want to vote being invisible, so I apologize.
I appreciate you speaking up, and faster than we could call for tech support, you have taken care of it. So fantastic. Thank you. I invite board members to turn on their mics. And Crystal, could you please call the roll for approval of the consent agenda?
Adams.
Aye.
Brackey is an aye. Casey. Aye. Keen.
Yes.
Dallas.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Coons.
Aye.
Marty.
Yes.
Neville.
Yes.
Sant.
Yes.
Seidel.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next up is item 6 on the agenda, our superintendent's report. Welcome, Superintendent Lewandowski. I invite you to get us started with a back-to-school report like none other. So thank you.
Thank you. Maybe before I go into that, Madam Chair, I'd like to acknowledge the pain that our nation is going through at this point. It is something that in our beginning to understand racial trauma and more deeply understand the racial inequities in our country, you begin to understand the deep pain that people are feeling across the nation, in our state, in our own district, both staff and students. And I want to acknowledge that pain. It is real, and it is up to us as both board and administrative leaders to continue to work on understanding these two topics, how they intersect and how they impact our students of color in the educational programs. I also want to move into the back to school report. You are right, Madam Chair. It is a school year like no other. We are excited, though, each time we meet with you. We have completed more and more planning, and I know you, as part of your district, truly understand the level of detail and integration of those details that become critical. And we are working really hard. And I want to thank especially our administrative team. If they look weary, it's because they are working really, really hard, and we wouldn't be as far as we are without their work, and I'm very grateful for that. We are looking forward next week to bringing staff back. We had new staff this week, but we wanted to capture just a little flavor of back to school period in front of us. And I'm going to invite Rachel Hicks to lead us off on that.
Good evening. I'm going to present my screen here. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. So there's going to be a group of leaders that will be jumping in throughout this presentation, but like other years, we'd like to give you a preview of back to school. Of course, this year there are just a few extraordinary measures that we've taken to respond to the realities of the pandemic and the realities of the pain that our people, that our nation is going through, as Sandy talked about just before. Still, again, this year, we will be grounded in our strategic priorities. They carry over from last year. And again, this is all centered around racial equity, and knowing that through racial equity that will produce student outcomes, evidence-based instruction, our trauma-sensitive work that we've been doing for several years now, and our focus on employee well-being. So we thought it'd be fun to do a little numbers show here. And as all of your school districts and ours, this summer has been full of untraditional meetings. This is just a snapshot, over 24 incident command meetings. That's with our incident command team and with principals as well. 12 planning meetings with our bargaining groups, so Local 2209, Local 284, and the planning teams that included a wide variety of staff in different positions, as well as having various racial perspectives on that planning team as well. And of course, I do want to give a special shout out to our nurses who have been extremely helpful and in a position to provide a lot of coaching and guidance to 287 in our planning. We had a full day retreat with our leadership team a couple of weeks ago, and that was the first time we had brought people together in person. We just felt we needed to model what that could look like and feel like, because there will be some points of having some in-person interaction between staff and families. I felt like it sounded like way more meetings with MDE and MDH. So 7 might be an understatement here. And then of course the wide variety of virtual engagement sessions that we had with families over the summer, and surveying and phone calls, and just those opportunities to touch base with our stakeholders. So the key elements of our back to school plan, and most of these things you've all heard and seen before in previous meetings. So as you know, we're starting in connected learning, and we'll be prepared to begin in a hybrid September 28th, moving into that step 1. So in this first stage of connected learning, we are really emphasizing that this isn't just like a distance learning model. We're really calling it connected learning because while there is learning that's happening from home on computers or with materials, that there's still a lot of connectedness happening. So students and staff will meet in person near or before the start of school, just to establish that initial connection of I'm your teacher, I'm your staff, and making that connection really strong between the family and staff. There'll be live connections between teachers and families at least 2 times per week. We are opening the school doors for that in-person mental health from some of our mental health providers and partners. Within the first couple weeks of school, we'll have mental health screenings done for all of our students. And then there'll be regular check-ins with social workers, psychologists, counselors, often those staff members that provide a lot of support to our students and their well-beings. And then I think you've also heard our model of doing one-on-one virtual support, and this could look like mentoring or tutoring, or perhaps even a couple-hour focus session on practicing a new skill that was taught during instruction. And then we will have IEP meetings for all students to receive special education services and, of course, the enhanced curriculum. So our themes this year is, one, just that we're sticking together, we're in this together. And my sense from talking with families and hearing from staff is that everyone is feeling and there's a shared feeling of uncertainty, and we're all doing the best that we can. So we want to keep that mentality going as we work through the complete, who knows what this school year will look like, just preparing for that new reality of learning and safety. I think it's also pretty evident the emphasis on racial equity, as well as the intersection of racial equity and the racial trauma, along with the trauma, and in particular, the trauma to our communities of color, especially Black and Latino families when it comes to COVID-19 and the disproportionate deaths, disproportionate rates of infection in certain communities. So really preparing our staff for what that intersection of race and trauma and the aftermath of COVID-19, the events that have been happening, not just in Minneapolis, across the world. How do we bring that together and really provide a strong support system for our students and provide a strong support system for our staff, and in particular, the staff of color in our district, which is about 30%. Trauma-sensitive, healing-centered practice is always at the center of our work. And as you've heard, we're working to really engage families in a really meaningful ways, and in ways that we just really haven't done before. And of course, the emphasis on employee well-being. So we're so excited to have landed Resmaa as our kickoff speaker for our virtual back to school event, which is taking place next Tuesday. This is the event we traditionally would have in the Grand Medina Event Center, which we're now going to be doing from the comfort of our computers. So Radius Guest, our new Director of Equity and Inclusion, will be our MC this year, which will be a great opportunity for our staff to see her and hear her, and just have some presence at the beginning of the school year, and then Resmaa is our keynote speaker. So his talk will be focused on racialized trauma. We will also have the same poem that Lonnie Shaw read to this school board a couple of meetings ago. His poem entitled Ode to Every Black Boy will also be read at the back to school event. And our superintendent's address will focus on many of the themes that I've already mentioned earlier in this presentation. And now I'd like to invite my colleague, Michelle Axel, to jump in to the conversation.
And I think I'm actually going to be presenting on this one for Michelle for this afternoon. Oh, there she is. Okay, I didn't know if she was going to intro.
Well, Michelle or Amanda?
I was on mute, and
And I was giving that pivot over to Amanda Octokirk, our talent acquisition professional.
Michelle, we can barely hear you.
So she's walking through the slides, so I'm just going to pass this over to Amanda. Thank you, Rachel.
Great.
Perfect.
Take it away, Amanda.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle, Rachel, board chair, board members. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Amanda Octokirk. I know I've spoken in front of many of you before. I see many familiar faces. I also see some faces that I don't quite know. So I am the talent acquisition professional for the district. I've worked with 287 for about 6 years now. And I do all things recruitment and retention related. And so today I'm presenting this slide, just a lot of data and facts around what's going on at the beginning of this exciting school year. So I'd like to start with the left-hand side, so our newest rock stars. We're so excited to welcome on all of our new staff. We have about 24 new licensed staff that we're bringing on this year. These are fully licensed staff. They are not just teachers though. We have really exciting positions like our counselors. We have 3 new ones, school psychs, social workers, we have a nurse, and then our 2 new BCBAs, which those are really hard to fill behavior analyst positions. So we're really excited to have 2. And in that group, 49% are actually in high need areas. So those are those hard to fill positions that, we'll advertise really heavily for. So the fact that we have that many is awesome. In that group, 21% are staff of color. And then if you look a little bit further down, we have our tier 1 and 2 special permissions licensed staff. So these staff are going to be working on what's called a tier 1 or tier 2 license, which means they are not currently licensed as teachers, but they may be working on it. And I think this is a really important group for us to highlight because it gives us a really unique opportunity to bring on some pretty great candidates who may just not have a license yet, who may be working towards one. It's just a great opportunity for us to bring in some awesome people. And so we have 23% that are staff of color in that group. And then if we're moving over to talk about our current rock stars, so I like to call these our rising rock stars in special ed. We have 33 education assistants that are going to be working as teachers this year. And this is something that I personally find really exciting. I know most of us do. It's really great for our students to have those familiar faces in their classroom and to kind of maintain that consistency, as well as allow us to grow our own into those teaching positions. We know teachers are hard to find, special ed teachers are harder to find, and our EAs often know our students better than anyone, so this is awesome. We also have 22 currently licensed teachers that are going to be working outside of their licensure area. And this is another really unique group. I know some of the intermediates share this uniqueness with us, but we have teachers who, for example, may be licensed in elementary ed who will be teaching in special ed this year. And this is also unique and actually a really great opportunity for recruitment and for growing our own because it allows us to grow special ed teachers. So this is a pretty great group. And then lastly, when we're talking about supporting our current staff, we did hire 5 new facility staff members to increase our efforts towards COVID protection. So really making sure that our staff and students feel safe coming into that building. And at the bottom, usually I'll talk a lot about recruitment, and this year feels a little different. And so while we never stop recruiting at 287, all of those efforts will continue. We'll keep digging deeper. We'll keep doing all the amazing things that we started last year and continue doing this year. But really what we're hearing and feeling from staff is that need to be heard, that need to be validated, and feel as though we are responding. And so really retention will be at the height of my focus this year. And I'm really excited to continue developing connections with staff. For example, last year, we started something called welcome interviews where I met one-on-one with new staff members and just had a little sit down for about 30 minutes and really let them lead the conversation. We got such great feedback and such positive outcomes out of those small conversations. So this year, my goal is to meet with every single new staff member throughout the year and make sure that they are welcome. So I'll be meeting with them within their first, 60 days. And lastly, just want to also talk about creating community. So kind of on the note of recruitment, but one of our biggest recruitment opportunities is always referrals. And so we know that our employees talk about how much they love 287, and that's how a lot of other employees end up joining us. And so retention really comes into play here in creating that community where our staff feel successful and feel energy around 287. And one of the ways we did that last year was with our Staff of Color luncheon event. As some of you know, I was able to facilitate that, and I had a lot of energy and excitement around it. And so I hope to continue doing more events like that. I'm so excited to have Radius on board, and I'm so excited to partner with her in that, in those efforts this year as well. And I'll leave you all with a fun nugget that is not on the slide, but we did our very first Human Resources New Staff Academy orientation this week. And we had 40-something staff that were on there, and it went about as smooth as I could hope for. So I'm very thankful for that. We had a lot of success. Our staff felt really great. They had a lot of great communications with us. We engaged fully with them. And it was such a great way to start off the year for us, knowing we can do this no matter what it looks like. And as of today, we actually don't have any full-time licensed position open, which means that we are fully staffed, which is very exciting. So I think it's a really great way to start off such an uncertain year. So just wanted to leave you with that. And thank you for letting me speak today.
Thank you, Amanda. All right, our New Staff Academy. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Rachel. I can speak to that. And thank you, board chair and board members. As Amanda mentioned, we started New Staff Academy this week. In addition to the 48 new external staff, we also included 11 staff members who are in newer positions or who started last spring and didn't have the benefit of the full-fledged New Staff Academy. In addition to the human resources orientation that she talked about, we started off with a site orientation, staggered it a little bit early so that staff could pick up computers, because we realized that if we're going to be doing virtual orientation and workshops, then staff are going to need their computers early. So that was the first thing. And some of them got to visit their sites in a safe manner. And then over the last couple of days, we have provided sessions on creating an environment for learning, self-care and wellness, some of the things you see listed there, with an eye on how these things are going to look in a distance environment to be starting out, the connections that we're going to be trying to forge with students and families, and then also how to support students when they are in our sites with behavior tools, crisis prevention intervention, and also following up with due process and all of the bureaucratic elements that go into what we do for students and the state. And then I think we can go on and look at workshop week, because we have also started early opportunities for our staff to come in and work on some of the sessions that they need for learning approaching the year ahead. We have a few new sessions that are focused on equity, including one led by Radius, another that consider how we're going to operate within connected learning and improve our practices. We have the keynote coming up, as Rachel was talking about. And then all of these sessions are being offered through Zoom in a virtual format, partly so that we can increase collaboration and engagement through breakout rooms. That one of the things we heard from staff last year is that while they're willing to connect online, they really want opportunities to have those small group conversations as part of the sessions that we offer. And so we've been using that as a way to have interaction throughout and increase a little bit of their opportunity to connect with each other. We've had about 600 staff who have registered in about 3,200 sessions already over the course of the last couple of weeks. And next week is the main workshop week, so we've got a lot more coming up.
Thank you, John. And I just want to point out here, Radius, I apologize. It looks like somehow we got a wrong last name in there for you. It's supposed to have read Radius Guest. So I apologize, Radius.
If I could give one more shout out too before we go on, as we talked about new staff, one of our newest staff members, in addition to Radius, is Marisa Nathan, our new professional learning manager, and she has been instrumental in arranging all of this, stepping into a very unique district as in a new position and at a very unique time when it's difficult to grasp everything at once with all of our sites and all of our programs and all of our staff through these virtual processes. So much appreciate Radius and Marisa and all the work that they've done as new staff themselves.
Thanks, John. All right, now I'd like to invite Tanya to join the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. So with family engagement, we've had quite the kickoff in the last 2 months or so. We have had about 5 virtual open houses in mid-July that you heard about. This week alone, both ABEC and West Education Center have both hosted. West was literally right at 4 o'clock today. So we've been able to connect with some families, and they were really appreciative of just the efforts that we're making to engage them more on a deeper level. And we're going to continue that throughout the school year. I'll be working with principals and with Naeem, our innovative family engagement coach, to work on continuing to do this and to continuing to grow comfort level with that. We have worked to make touch-based phone calls to every 287 family. That is happening right now as we speak. Teams, administrators, and other members of their teams are calling families and just engaging them about how they feel about starting school, as well as just explaining what connected learning is and making sure that if they choose not to, or choose to want to stay in connected learning longer than just the beginning of the school year, if their child is slated to come back, that's an option that they can pursue. So that's something that we're doing, as well as asking about family meal needs, so that we can make sure that we are supplying that for those families that are eligible, as well as childcare, and then setting up IEP meetings for families. So that's a big part of what's happening right now. As I mentioned, one of our biggest things is just consistent engagement opportunities throughout the year. And one of those ways is for us to really work to identify where do we have clusters within the district, knowing that our families come from many different places, and looking at how we can find opportunities to be socially distanced and be able to meet in the communities and leverage that access. And the other final thing I would want to mention, that Rachel, thank you so much for all of your support in helping make this a reality. The instructional leadership team that John Boss oversees, as well as part of family engagement work, we kind of cross over. And one of the things we've worked towards creating is Family Vibes, which is going to be a video series that'll be on YouTube and other platforms. Families can actually send an email if they have things that they want to hear or learn about or talk about. And we're going to have a variety of staff from different buildings be part of this video series to explain different things. And one parent at our 4 o'clock said, well, why can't we leverage some of our kids too? If parents are okay with it, with teaching some skills on some of the social media or different things that we're asking students to use within schools. So that's something that we'll be working on throughout the year. And we have a topic list started, and we hope to be launching at least a video a week, and possibly more once we get up to speed and have more staff to record videos. So that's kind of what we've been doing in the family engagement realm in a short period of time. So thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. And now I'd just like to take any questions from our board to any of the leaders that presented this presentation.
Well, thanks to all of you. This is just an enormous amount of work. And I do want to express gratitude for myself and the board for everyone who's been engaged with thoughtful listening, thoughtful action and preparation. It's the detail shows and it matters. Are there any questions or comments that anyone has? I don't see any for right now, so maybe we'll just keep rolling, and as things come up, we will stop to share. And Sandy, I can't hear you, but it doesn't.
There we go. I'm back.
Oh, okay, it was a mute. Okay.
I just want to acknowledge you did get a display of all the hard work of administrators, but two things that I have in my tenure have not heard in a presentation is we don't have any openings, and I've never provided or heard a report on family engagement. So those are two very needed things, and it's just great to have those included in our cadre of things that we're trying to get moving. And then finally, I just want to acknowledge that in that little tidbit slide right at the beginning of how many calls there were in incident command meetings, Rachel did not include what probably was a couple of hundred communications that she personally wrote for anybody and everybody that might read them. So thank you to her as well. But it really was a collective effort, and despite all the different ways this school year is, in many ways, there's also the excitement of back to school that brings educators together. And to that end, one final thank you in regard to the new school year is to Local 2209. They've been at the table. There's certainly a lot of fear and apprehension among our Local 2209 staff, just that like there is in any school district, but they have just been so good to work with us, to ask the questions, allow us to answer them, and I'm very appreciative of their leadership and the efforts they made to work together. So thank you. Closely following that presentation, it almost teed it up. We have invited Radius to share just a little bit more about what's coming in our keynote and what's coming for us the rest of the year. So Radius.
There we go. Yeah, I am so excited that Resmaa Menakem is going to join us. He is an author, he's a healer, a trauma specialist. He's also a colleague and a friend. I have had the privilege and the honor of working with Resmaa for the last 4 years. And I'm also so excited because he's a New York Times best-selling author of Grandmother's Hands, Racialized Trauma and the Pathway to Mending Our Hearts and Bodies. I'm going to share a little bit from his bio because I think it really shares with you how fortunate we are that he will be joining us and supporting us in the kind of work that he will do. He will not just serve as our kickoff speaker, he will also support our work with a year of learning for a unique group of staff, innovative leaders that will be a part of some really structured, intentional, strategic work around race that he will lead for us and with us. So he's a visionary justice leadership coach, organizational strategist, and master trainer. Resmaa is a leading voice in today's conversation on racialized trauma. As described by On Being with Krista Tippett, Resmaa activates the wisdom of elders and a very new science about how all of us carry the history and traumas behind everything we collapse into the word race in our bodies. He illuminates why all of the best laws and diversity training have not gotten us anywhere near healing. Resmaa created a program that he calls Cultural Somatics. And so those of you that will be participating in the Cultural Somatics and Internal Influencers program will really get a chance to experience the Cultural Somatics work that he does. It utilizes the body and resilience as mechanisms for growth. So he's a therapist. So as a therapist and a trauma specialist, he founded what he calls the Justice Leadership Solutions. It's a leadership consultancy firm. RESMA dedicates its expertise to coaching leaders through civil unrest, organizational change, and community building. He helps justice leaders realize their potential in the areas of equity and race. So he will be doing that with a select group of staff at 287 that we're calling internal influencers. So I wrote down a couple of things because some of you might be asking a little bit or be thinking a little bit about, tell me a little bit more about Grandmother's Hands. So Grandmother's Hands, and it's behind me, and I put it there intentionally. So strategically, the book is right behind me. But it's a step-by-step healing process based on the latest neuroscience and somatic healing methods. Readers will walk away with the understanding that they are not defective and to recover from the ills of white supremacy. So the book is unique in that it addresses racialized trauma on a somatic and personal level. It offers a solution to white supremacy that is not just about the head, but also about the body. So he will do a year of learning with staff in 287. Approximately 100 people or so, up to 100, will participate in this training that he will do with us, meeting with us monthly, going over discussing the book, as well as articles along the way that we feel he feels will assist us in our development and our growth. He will do a lot of work with affinity groups by race and allowing those kinds of conversations to take place in different spaces. So that's the work that we can look forward to. I'm very excited that he was chosen to be our kickoff speaker for our back to school event, and very more so excited because I know him personally and know about the great work that he is doing in our community and around the country. I'm available for any questions that you might have about the work that he will be doing and the work that we will be doing together as leaders in 287.
Thank you, Radius. I'm excited to have the book, which I've started reading, looking forward to continuing through it. Oh, there you go, Ruthie. Way to go. Mine's digital, so it doesn't quite have the same screen presence, but yes, thank you to Juanine for helping us get copies of the book. Are there any questions or comments for Radius? Okay, I don't see any at this time, so maybe we'll keep moving forward. But this is really good work. It's the right work. And I think that I'm looking forward to a lot of good outcomes throughout the year. So thanks so much for your leadership, Radius. It's just great to have you on the team. And I know that there's a lot we can do together. So thank you. And next up, Sandy.
Yes, and I would just add my thanks, and I'm glad everyone's getting the books. We don't have a formal book club assignment for you, but we hope that you'll just take advantage of starting reading the book, and we'll have more discussions as we go forward. And also, you are all invited to, of course, the kickoff, the virtual kickoff, to hear him in person, and hopefully those of you that are able to link into that will be able to do so this year. Hopefully it's a little bit easier for more board members to hear our morning kickoff with RESMA. So I think closely following that is something that came up rather suddenly last week. We took note of an equity cohort sponsored by the American Association of School Administrators. And we know that AASA does excellent work. And so as we quickly looked at it, we determined that it was important for us to have a team of 5 that would join that equity cohort. And so we quickly had more names than we could fill with one team, but right now Regina has agreed to join, and then 4 of our leadership staff, including myself, Radius, and a couple more. But we attended. It came up so quickly before we realized the first session was actually last Friday, so we had to name a team really quickly. I did send out the entire packet to the board. We have since determined that we're going to sign up a second team. So if there are board members that are wanting to join in that, we would love to have a board member attend that team. The commitments are listed in that information I sent. It will all be virtual, except the possibility of an in-person visit to Ithaca, New York, which will be kind of the culminating project and get together. We'll see if it's in person or virtual, but that's the plan right now. So if you wouldn't mind just taking another look at that, let me know if you're interested. It is a substantial commitment of time, but again, I think it will provide us a platform to learn together, grow together, and create a project together for our district with appropriate metrics that we can better formalize during this upcoming year. So we're very excited about that. Any questions? All right.
Any questions about the cohort? Okay.
All right. I also wanted to bring to your attention my annual Uber goal for those board members who may be new this year, who came on in January. Each year I present to the board what is fondly known now as the Uber goal, that in addition to all the formal superintendent roles and responsibilities, there's one overarching goal for the year. And you may remember the report that Ben gave in May on coherence and some of the data we're keeping, the metrics we're using to determine whether we really are getting everyone in the district to understand and work on our very key strategic goals. And Chad has been leading that work on our behalf. It continues. We were really pleased with the results we shared with you in May. And last year when I presented this goal, I mentioned that it would be a 2-year goal. And so, but I did want to remind the board of this Uber goal. It really is appropriately timed for this point in our strategic plan, because to me, it feels like the last year and this year, we really are in the heart of the action part of that strategic plan, especially around trauma and racial equity and communication. We really, I think, are deep in the work now. And for that reason, I think this goal continues to be relevant as the overarching Uber goal for the upcoming year. So I would just ask if there's any questions about that Uber goal. All right, very good. That concludes my superintendent report. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy and team. It's a lot of great information and solid start for the school year. There is no instructional report this evening, so we'll move on to item 8 on the agenda, the Business Services and Labor Relations report. Item 8.2, financial report. May, if you could please present the June monthly financial report for approval.
Good evening, Chair and board members. So this is the June 2020. So everybody else has been talking about the future and I have to talk about the past. But just a reminder that this June report that you have in front of you is mostly on the cash basis, and that these amounts will continue to change up and through the audit as the accrual entries are done for year end. So at the point that we did this report on a cash basis, revenues were at 77.2% of budget, which is about 10% lower than previous years. That is mostly due to COVID and was not unexpected. Expenditures were at 91.6% of budget. That's about 5% lower than the previous year. Cash fell below the previous 2 years because, of course, revenues fell below, so cash did too. Investments earned $2,106.84. And the LTFM bond investment had a balance of $167,527 as of the end of June. A reminder that those funds were actually have already been used for the work that was completed in the classrooms and the kitchen at ABEC over the summer. So now we get to the student ADMs for the end of the year. So the ALC programs peaked in November and December at about 325 and declined to 315.9 by the end of the year. That was still above their planned ADMs for the year. The North Star Online program was originally budgeted at last year's level. As you can see, this program grew yet again and almost doubled its enrollment from the previous year and ended up with 1,787.99 ADM. Over the course of the year, several positions were added to that program to support that growth. The Career and Tech Pathways ADM remained steady throughout the year, and they also exceeded their planned ADM. For special ed programs, the ADM was slightly lower than planned for the multi-categorical area. And it was 22.48 ADM lower than planned for transition programs, 7.35 ADM lower than planned for EBD programs, and 8.92 ADM more than planned for ASD programs. Overall, end-of-year ADMs were 533.77, which was 20.97 ADM lower than the budgeted and 15 lower than the previous year. The care and treatment enrollment was 145.50 for the year, which is about 45 ADM lower than planned and 11 lower than the previous year. Donations for the month of June was a $50 gift card, and donations for the total year were $30,840, which is higher than the 2 previous years. Are there any questions before the board approves the June report?
Thank you, May. Any questions or comments before we take action? All right, looking good. Thank you, May. Is there a motion to approve the June financials as presented?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Moved by Heather Douglas, seconded by Steve Adams. Crystal, would you please call the roll?
Adams.
Aye.
Brackey is an I. Casey.
Aye.
Keen.
Yes.
Dallas.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Coons.
Aye.
Marty.
Yes.
Neville.
Yes.
Sant.
Yes.
Seidel.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, we will move on to chair report, which lists no report. And I do actually have just a couple of brief items that I would like to add this evening. One is it's an update for all of you on Tina Hauk. I mean, we're all aware of the sad news that we lost our colleague earlier this month. Tina was an incredible person and also just an incredibly valued staff member on our team at 287, and we're going to miss her tremendously. I just wanted to provide the update that we've sent a monetary gift to Tina's family for a scholarship fund for college for her 3 children. So just something that we can do in terms of moving forward with our Sunshine Fund. This comes from the board's Sunshine Fund, which is comprised of voluntary contributions. I sent an email out to board members earlier this month as well to invite people to make contributions if they choose. And thank you to those who have contributed so far. For anyone who may not have had that opportunity yet, Juanine is mailing envelopes self-addressed to the district just to make it easy. It's also a nice general reminder. Paper can maybe, I think paper mail still gets buried, but I have less paper mail these days than I do email in the inbox. So I think the paper mail may be easier to track. So thank you, Juanine. And if anyone has questions about the Sunshine Fund, I invite them to just give me a call or send an email. Second, I just wanted to provide an information item by way of an opportunity and some discussion regarding our board meeting format. Since our COVID-19 declaration of pandemic by the World Health Organization on March 11th, our board has been meeting in a virtual format as per the resolution that we passed on March 26th. But after discussion with Superintendent Sandy Lewandowski, we'd like to make the recommendation that we consider a hybrid model for our board meetings. This is a part of what we're considering and planning for with our learning model, and we'd like to consider the same for the board. What we're proposing at this point in time is that we have a couple of people at the District Service Center in Plymouth in the boardroom. So Sandy as superintendent, myself as board chair, possible addition of one other member of the lead team, and the balance of the board and staff would continue to meet virtually. If we decide that we do want to move forward with this, it would be presented at the September 10th board meeting for approval, and it would take effect September 24th at that board meeting. So I'd just like to invite any thoughts, questions, or comments about moving in that direction. Sam, go ahead, please.
I do support that idea moving forward. If we're going to go to a hybrid based, I believe we can too as a board. My only other recommendation would be that if there are other members of the board who would like to join the meeting in person as well too, I feel that it's fair to allow us to do so. I doubt all of us would, but if half of us would, I think that is possible to do in the size of the boardroom that we do have, where we could be socially distant. I think we could make it work.
I appreciate the comment. And Sandy, could I invite you just to share a couple of comments regarding the boardroom and accommodations for number of people? I know we have a little bit of information and can probably gather more.
Yes, that room has been measured to consider social distancing and can safely manage 12 individuals in the boardroom. So you're right, Sam. I think we could certainly accommodate additional board members if they wanted to be in person and still be socially distant. The other thing that maybe would be considered is community input. We are looking at really offering a choice. If a community member wanted to do it the way we're doing it right now, they could submit the letter and it could be read virtually, or they could come in person. And we would just have to monitor that capacity to make sure we're not over the limit. But I think that's very possible based on past practice.
Thank you. Adam, did you have your hand raised? Go ahead, please.
Yes, I did. I agree with what Sam said as well. We moved to back to in person for the last month in board. We felt it was important, given that we're also in a hybrid model, that if we're asking our staff to be in the building, that we be in the building. So I agree with that, the idea very strongly, actually. And I would just say, in addition, and we've already started this conversation here with regards to the logistics of the boardroom, if we need to make changes to how our usual structure is, let's do that with minimizing the investment of staff time in mind. It's obviously a very busy time right now, implementing something we've never done before. And if we have to do things a little differently or in ways that are, maybe inconvenient for us, that still allow sufficient access to the public, but take a lot less time than maybe a more deluxe setup would be, let's favor that and favor things that are simple for staff to implement. But if it is possible to go back in person, I definitely support that decision.
Thanks. I appreciate the comment regarding concern for staff, because there is certainly a lot of additional time required when we enter a building in person. I also acknowledge Sam's comment about choice, and it's our intention that we maintain the choice. And with no questions asked, everybody has their own unique situations that we need to honor. We do honor that. So we will, I appreciate both of those comments and the considerations. Steve Adams, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair Neville. I just want to confirm that, yes, we will continue to offer online viewing of the board meetings, because.
Thank you. That's a good question.
Yeah.
And Sandy or Chad, could you speak to that? Because I know logistics shift when we enter
Right.
a hybrid model as well.
Yeah, thank you for the question, and Chad, surely jump in here. That is our intent if the board votes at our next board meeting to approve this plan. That indeed is what the recommendation includes, that it would be offered both ways for an interim period of time, and then we can make a decision at a next date that we reconsider. And Chad, do you want to speak to the technology that is capable to do that? Looks like Chad might have got bumped out. At any rate, I can assure you I talked to Chad.
I'm here.
Oh, there we go.
I'm here. Sorry, I couldn't find my mute.
Yeah, let's.
So yes, if we're going to install the technology at the Service Center boardroom, that's going to allow us to, broadcast, live stream on YouTube, just like most of your districts are doing.
Okay. Good.
And it will. And we'll have flexibility. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
Michelle, hit mute button.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it off.
We don't have technology that can automatically mute people yet, but it's coming.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's fine, Michelle. It's fine.
It's okay.
Well, the reality is that we've had this conversation concerning our board meetings. We've had this conversation with my church, because everyone's doing everything, remote now, and it really does allow for a lot more input and a lot more participation. So I wouldn't want to see anyone not participate anymore because we go to in-person meetings.
Right. So
here we've got 26 people on the Zoom or the Google Meets. We've got 6 people watching on YouTube right now. So,
I just was a little bit confused about what you guys were saying about the whether or not we would offer it. My understanding is that if we have board members who are not present and are participating virtually, we have to air it also, or those board members have to open their homes to the public. Right?
Yes. No?
Say that again.
So my understanding is that if we're going to hold a board meeting and part of us are attending the board meeting virtually, we either have to air it for it to be viewable to the public, or the board members who choose to participate from home virtually have to open their homes to the public for public viewing.
So we do that anyway, right?
I see Adam had his hand raised. So Adam, I'm going to start with you. And I think this is probably part of a conversation thread that a lot of our districts have been having. So Adam, would you like to make a comment first?
Yeah, I was just going to say that Heather is right, and I had not considered that. So just for a little background, at Eden Prairie, we went to fully back. We are live streaming them, but we're fully back, so we didn't have to deal with the issue of the normal time remote laws of people being in a public place. Heather, you said there's an or. It has to be live streamed or in a public place. I'm not sure. I'm truly not sure if there is. If we're not meeting remotely under the pandemic laws, you might have to be in a public place to call in, which obviously poses additional problems now because there aren't a lot of public places to go to where you can sit for a few hours. But I don't know exactly that. So I would just encourage, Regina and Sandy, as you investigate this, look into that and consider that as well, and how that impacts the feasibility of this, and how, what happens if 4 or 5 people from the public show up to talk and how that's managed. Just those considerations. But I forgot about that. So thanks for bringing that up, Heather.
And I appreciate the comment as well. I see, Sam, you have your hand raised.
I was going to ask, is Anne online? What would her interpretation of law would that be, being that she's attorney for the district?
Our general counsel.
Yes.
I was going to ask the same thing. Thank you, Sam. Andy?
Anne, is there any comment that you'd like to make right now? Or it's certainly an item that we will look into so we have additional information before a resolution is prepared.
Yes, I will have to look into that further in order to answer those questions.
I know there are different models at different districts that I'm aware of right now. Some have gone back to full in-person, some are doing a hybrid, but I also recognize that when a board is any hybrid model, the use of that word may be defined differently depending on the district, but all of us will be working within certainly the statutory requirements as well as recognition of the differences that the pandemic presents. So I appreciate you looking into that, Anne, and we'll continue to stay tuned with that. Are there any other comments on that specific issue or about a proposal for adjusting our board meeting format?
Madam Chair, this is Chad. I just wanted to state that we are going to move forward, I believe, with installing the technology to accommodate whatever option we choose. And that also includes the exploration. And I'm trying to be very clear, the exploration of ways to involve the community to join board meetings and be able to speak virtually as well as in person. So that's all I'll say.
Thank you. And may I ask if it's known at this point, if there is an estimate on the cost involved to make this happen?
Sure. So to not only install the equipment we need, but also upgrade some other components for audio video for the boardroom, it would be about $10,000.
And given this is not an agenda item, we aren't at a point where anyone has had an opportunity to prepare for discussion. So I appreciate that background, but it is something that I think we will want to take a look at in terms of priority. Sandy, did you have your hand raised to make a comment?
I think Chad alluded to this, but I just want to re-emphasize this. I'm guessing most of you, if not all of you, already have had that feature in your district. Just historically, as you probably are aware, we often don't get the kind of community participation that you do, but this will allow us to bring it up to the standard of most of our member districts. We just had not invested in that, and this is really a call to go ahead and do that.
Thank you. Ann Casey, go ahead, please.
Thanks, just quickly. And then that is something that we would carry forward beyond the pandemic. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay, great.
Thank you for that question. Additional questions or comments? Anything that has worked particularly well at your home districts that we could take into consideration at 287? Crystal.
I would just, I think I've said this before, but encourage us to think really broadly about the different ways that people can participate in public comment. So what we are doing as we just moved into having in-person meetings, but it is optional for board members. So if a board member would like to continue to participate virtually, they can at any time. So it's basically just a standing in-person virtual combo based on individual board member needs and preferences. And so with that, we're trying to remain consistent in giving the same options for community members for public comment, which means they can do it in person, or they can submit a written statement to be read on their behalf by a board member. They can submit an audio clip to be played at the meeting, or they can submit a video that can be played at the meeting. So really trying to think broadly about the different ways and different types of technology that might be comfortable to people. And so I hope that we'll take that into consideration here as well.
I appreciate that background. Thank you. We'll have to take a look at some of the Richfield notes and also any other district protocols that could be helpful in this situation. This is all helpful background. What I'm hearing is that people are in favor of us considering this. So it is something that we'll move forward to draft for our September 10th meeting. And it would be an action item at that meeting. And again, it's our intent that if approved, it would take effect at the September 24th board meeting. So thank you all. And if anyone has additional thoughts that we need to be aware of, let us know, but we will have the opportunity to discuss this again on September 10th. We're going to move on to AMSD. Andrea Keene, is there anything that you can share regarding AMSD?
There is, yes. We had our board of directors meeting on August 14th. We had both Commissioner Mary Catherine Ricker and her Deputy Commissioner Heather Mueller join us to kind of give an update and answer questions. We also had Secretary of State Steve Simon join us and talk about some of the implications of the upcoming election. He also had two asks. First is please vote by mail ahead of time if you can. And second, if you're able to become an election judge, please consider volunteering for that position, because a lot of the people who typically do sign up to be election judges might be senior citizens who might not be as comfortable. So, and I shouldn't say volunteer, it's actually a paid position. So if you want to become an election judge, he really promoted that. Then we welcomed our new executive committee members, Kelsey Dawson Walton from Osseo Public Schools, Renee Cornet, the superintendent from St. Anthony New Brighton, and Zuki Ellis from the school board in St. Paul Public Schools. And then I handed over the virtual gavel to Curtis Johnson, who will now be the chair of AMSD for the coming legislative session. The last thing I'll share is that AMSD does a really nice election guide, and it's about 20 pages long. It's updated with lots of statistics that are helpful as you're asking questions of candidates or working with your legislative action committee. I would really recommend checking out. It does a nice job of having graphs that are updated every year. Like, for example, showing very clearly where we would be at with the per pupil formula funding if it had just kept pace with inflation. Every year they update that graph and that number. And so information like that can be really helpful with the upcoming election. And I would recommend you check that out. That's it.
Thank you. And the newsletter is enclosed in the board packet as well for additional reference. Is there anything anyone would like to share for once around the table? Sandy.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
Two short things, please. One, I just want to thank Andrea for her role at AMSD last year. She was as polished and professional as anybody you could expect, and we greatly, I think, appreciate her connection, not just to local districts, but to the intermediate, and she really served all of us very well. So thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Sandy. You know it was an honor. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
The other thing I just want to mention is we are digging in deep on the next phase of our learning plan. And we're trying to determine what the timeline and program implications would be. You probably can expect something coming to your attention as we reach that conclusion. But we do feel we need to now zero in on that next stage and the next programs. And so more information to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Okay. Well, there's still a little bit of daylight.
Michelle's raising her hand.
Sorry,
Pardon
I was
me, Crystal?
trying to unmute.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. A quick thank you to Andrea for her great service. And also, I attended a webinar today, this afternoon, and maybe some of you did as well, the Joint Council Digital Learning Series. And this was on race, trauma, mental health, and education. Yes. It was really well done. I got so much information. My head is still quite full. It was just this afternoon. And yeah, I think, I don't know if if people can sign up to see it after the fact, but it's very well worth your time. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I had the opportunity to attend as well. It was,
Oh, good.
as you said, very well done. And I do believe it was recorded. So this would be the NSBA, National School Board Association site. Ruthie.
That was my question. Was it recorded?
Thank you. My understanding is yes, but I'm not 100% positive. What I would recommend doing is going to the National School Board Association site and looking for, I believe it was called Race, Trauma, Mental Health, and Education. So that was the topic header, and there was an excellent panel. And if the comments were saved from that, what I always appreciate some good resource material, and there were several good books and other resources, websites that were shared for additional information. So I'll see if I can find a link that could possibly be shared with the board. So I'll see what I can come up with on that. Thank you. Yes, Ruthie, go ahead.
The Get on the Bus activity, are those starting up in the fall again?
They're on hold. They're on hold, Ruthie.
Oh, okay.
We are going to try to start up the board union breakfast, which might be a virtual event, but for the near term, I just don't think we're able to operate with a physical get on the bus at this point.
Okay.
Good question. Heidi.
Could Sandy, could you remind us of it's September 1st, the kickoff. What is the time of that?
Rachel.
9:30 to 11:30.
That's exactly right. It is 9:30 to 11:30.
Oh,
okay, great. Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Well, thank you all. I appreciate everyone being here this evening, and thank you to those who are watching on YouTube. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Is
Heidi
that
Marty.
Steve?
Steve.
Okay, Steve made the motion. Heidi Marty made the second. I invite all board members to unmute for the roll. Crystal, would you please call the roll?
Adams.
Aye.
Brackey is an aye. Casey. Aye. Keen.
Yes.
Dallas.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Coons.
Aye.
Marty.
Yes.
Neville.
Yes.
Sant.
Yes.
Seidel.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries. It is 7:47 p.m. and we are adjourned. Have a great evening, everybody. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Where are you?